Imagine this. You're in the back of a car, just trying to get home after a long, exhausting day. You're tired, your body aches, and all you want is to get home, kick back, and forget about everything. But then, the driver, who you've entrusted to get you safely to your destination, suddenly turns on you. And this isn't just any normal altercation. What if he doesn't just raise his voice, but actually humiliates you, kicks you out of the car, and then, as you're trying to leave, he hits you with the car door? You're stunned, you're in pain, and you're left standing there, trying to process what just happened. You can't believe it. But here's the twist. The driver loses everything. His job, his income, his livelihood, gone. And you, the victim, are left to watch it all unfold. The world is about to see what went down, and trust me, it's not just a passenger's word anymore. It's all on video. How does a man go from having a job to losing everything in just a few hours? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that expose the hidden truths of our society. It was a hot summer evening in Atlanta, Georgia, August 10th, 2022, to be exact. Abby Nicole had just finished a long, grueling day. You can imagine the exhaustion she must have felt, just wanting to get home, unwind, and forget about the stress she'd been carrying with her all day. The last thing she needed was trouble, yet trouble is exactly what she walked into when she climbed into the back of an Uber. What should have been a simple, uneventful ride turned into something Abby would never forget. Abby, tired from her day, wasn't asking for much, just a little comfort on a scorching night. She wasn't looking for drama. She wasn't trying to cause a scene. The AC in the car was blasting in her face, and after a long day, she just needed a little relief. So, she politely asked the driver to turn it down, thinking that was a reasonable request, right? Who wouldn't? It was a simple ask in the face of a blazing summer heat wave. But what happened next would prove to be anything but simple. Instead of a polite response, she found herself in a confrontation that spiraled out of control, and what was meant to be a peaceful ride turned into a nightmare. And that's where everything started to go terribly, terribly wrong. As soon as Abby asked the driver to turn down the AC, his tone shifted, and it was instantly clear this wasn't going to be a simple ride home. The driver didn't just acknowledge her request. He snapped back at her with an edge in his voice that made her stomach churn. "We're not going to discuss this," he said, the words dripping with aggression. In that instant, the air in the car thickened. What had started as a normal, polite conversation now felt charged with something far more sinister. The tension was palpable, and Abby could feel it, a cold, uncomfortable shift that made her realize this was no longer about the temperature in the car. It wasn't just about comfort anymore. This was something deeper, something that made her uneasy, something she couldn't ignore. Abby tried to keep her cool, her voice steady as she spoke, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. "I was just asking you to turn it down. It's a little much," she said, hoping to keep things calm, to ease the tension. But instead of a simple response, the driver's voice grew even colder. "We're not going to discuss this," he snapped again. Abby, now fully aware of the hostile tone, felt her frustration building. She could tell this wasn't just a simple disagreement. She could feel the underlying contempt in his words. "It's giving racist," she said, almost as if she was speaking to herself, but her words hung in the air between them like a challenge. She was done pretending this was about the AC. This was something bigger. And then, the driver responded in a way that made her heart drop. "'Cause you're acting like one." His words were sharp, cutting through the air. Abby felt her chest tighten. She had heard enough. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But there was no mistaking the shock in her words. This wasn't just a disagreement anymore. This wasn't just about a little inconvenience. This was a direct attack on her. And he wasn't even hiding it. Without missing a beat, the driver made it crystal clear. "Yeah, you're acting like an asterisk, he said, the racial slur falling from his lips like it was nothing. The words hit Abby like a punch to the gut. She couldn't even process what had just happened. How could someone, anyone, speak to her like that? It wasn't just an argument anymore. It wasn't just a rude comment. This was racism, raw and ugly, and the driver wasn't even trying to hide it. The contempt, the hate, it was all there, laid bare in his words. Abby froze, stunned, humiliated. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The injustice of it all washed over her. But even in that moment of shock, she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let him get away with it. She wasn't going to stay silent. She gathered herself, took a deep breath, and stood firm, her resolve hardening. This wasn't over. She wasn't just going to let this man degrade her. No, she was going to stand up, even if it meant calling out his hate for the world to see. Abby, shaken but with a fierce determination, grabbed her things and made her way toward the door, hoping to escape the nightmare she had just experienced. Every part of her body felt heavy, her mind racing with everything that had just happened. All she wanted was to get out, to distance herself from the man who had humiliated her in ways she never thought possible. But as she reached for the door, something even worse happened. Without warning, the driver slammed the car into reverse, his foot pressing hard on the gas. The car lurched backward with a sudden jolt, the tires screeching against the pavement. The open door swung violently toward her, a metal wall coming at her fast. There was no time to react. The door hit her with a brutal force, slamming into her side, knocking her off balance. She gasped in pain, her body thrown sideways, trying desperately to regain her footing. Her hands reached out instinctively, but the force of the impact sent her stumbling back, her head spinning. The pain shot through her like a lightning bolt. Her breath caught in her throat as she felt the weight of the door pushing her backward. The sting of humiliation and physical pain blended together, and her vision blurred for a moment. She cried out, the sound of her own voice ringing in her ears. But the driver didn't stop. He didn't look back. He didn't care. He just drove off, the car speeding away as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just hit a person, hadn't just done something so callous and cruel. The sound of the engine revving, the tires screeching in the distance, it felt like a punch to her gut. Abby was left standing there, her heart pounding in her chest, her body aching from the blow. She stood on the busy street, in the middle of downtown Atlanta, feeling like the world around her was spinning. Her legs trembled as she tried to regain her balance, her arms still holding onto her belongings. The humiliation of being treated like this, of being so violently rejected and hurt, it all sank in. Her mind raced, trying to process what had just happened. How could someone, anyone, treat another human being like that? How could he cause so much pain, so much hurt, and then just drive off like it was nothing? But the worst part, Abby knew this wasn't just some cruel moment in time. This wasn't just a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. This was something far deeper, something rooted in hate, something she couldn't let slide. And as she stood there, feeling the weight of the pain in her side, the humiliation in her heart, Abby knew one thing for sure. This was far from over. She couldn't let him get away with it. She wouldn't. The injustice she had just endured was a reminder of something bigger, something that needed to be addressed. And Abby was determined that it wouldn't just be brushed aside. She wasn't done. Not by a long shot. But the story doesn't end there. Abby wasn't just another person in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was a witness, and she had something powerful. Proof. She had recorded everything. Every word, every insult, every brutal moment. The video, which captured the entire altercation, quickly spread across social media, and it didn't take long for it to go viral. The shocking footage left everyone who saw it in disbelief. The world watched as a driver, who thought he could get away with his cruelty, was now exposed for the person he truly was. It wasn't just Abby's word against his anymore. No, now there was video evidence, and that made all the difference. As the video made its way across platforms, it sparked an uproar. People were appalled, shocked, and angry. How could this happen in 2022? They asked. How could anyone, let alone an Uber driver, treat another human being like this? The outrage was palpable. But what happened next was even more shocking. Uber saw the video. They didn't wait around. Within hours, they took immediate action. The driver? Banned from the platform for life. Just like that. In the blink of an eye, his livelihood was gone, and it wasn't just a small slap on the wrist. No, this was a consequence of his actions. His job, his income, his reputation, gone in an instant, all because of a few words and a moment of hate. While Abby was left with the emotional and physical scars of the encounter, something even more powerful emerged from all of this. Her courage to stand up, to speak out, and to share the video gave her a voice in a world that often silences people of color. By speaking out, by standing firm in the face of injustice, Abby became more than just a victim. She became a symbol that said, racism will not be tolerated. It wasn't just her fight. It was a fight for everyone who has ever faced discrimination, for everyone who has ever been made to feel less than because of the color of their skin. And the message went beyond Abby. The driver, who thought he could get away with his vile behavior, was now facing the full weight of his actions. He lost everything. His job, his reputation, his income, all of it, erased because of a moment of hate. It didn't matter that he thought he could hide behind the anonymity of his job. In the end, his hate-filled actions caught up with him. But Uber? They made it clear, this kind of behavior had no place on their platform. They reached out to Abby personally, offering support and making it known that what had happened to her was unacceptable. They didn't just take action against the driver, they made a statement. They were telling the world, this will not stand. We will not tolerate racism, and we will stand behind those who speak out against it. Abby's courage helped to send that message loud and clear. What do you think? Should Uber have acted faster? If you were in Abby's shoes, how would you have handled it? Would you have kept your cool, or would you have stood up right there and then? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear from you. And if you want to see more stories that demand attention, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Your voice matters, and it's time to keep the conversation going. This is just the beginning.